Okay, to bring this regular scheduled meeting to order. Get started. First thing we need to do is approval of the agenda.
Move we approve the agenda.
Motion,
Second.
a second. All those in favor? Motion carried 7-0. Appreciate everybody coming out tonight and anybody listening. It's always good to have the community involved in what we're doing here. So you're always welcome. So hopefully we'll see more people each week. Communications received. I did get this card, or Alex did, of just thanking the board members for participating in the Rise and Shine Fulton School. That's around. Great experience. Great experience. I enjoyed that. And the elementary kids are not my strong count, but that was fun to watch that and how well that's done and participate in the high five. It was well worth the time, and appreciate the invite that we got. Just that with that, we have citizens open forum, which we have a couple people here. Read this really quick, is that the board appreciates patrons taking time to talk to us about our policies and procedures. We set aside this time every meeting to hear from the public. Your comments should be directed toward the board policies and or procedures our administrators establish to carry out these policies. It's not an appropriate time or place for patrons to make comments of a personal nature about any district employee or student. Versus making comments which violate the privacy rights of district employees and students will be asked to stop speaking or cease their remarks. If a patron or parent has a concern with one or more employees, the board will refer that person to the appropriate administrator, and the board will follow up at future meetings. Person speaking will be allowed 3 minutes each to express their opinions. In case if there's a large number, which we don't have tonight, so I'm not going to go over that. But we do appreciate you taking time to come here and discuss your business with the board. So with that, Jean, first.
Okay, thanks for having your citizen open forum. I came tonight to discuss an agenda item that you have tonight, which is about child care, participation in child care, cooperation with Clay County and Grow Clay County. I wanted to speak in support of your collaboration with that entity. It has been a very long-term goal. When I served on the board, toured 15 years ago, maybe trying to get something going. The stumbling block has always been the cost of the district of a facility. From reading all the details on the board docs, and I see no cost in construction or facility preparation. I see money already allocated and available in the school district for any staffing that needs to happen. So I see no problems with that financially. I have also noted that it's a year-by-year commitment. If you try it for a year or two, it's not a commitment for 15 or 20 years. And I would also, I think philosophically, I think some people are opposed to daycare, and I'm not sure why, because not everyone is able to stay home with their children. There are children in great need of childcare in this county. It would benefit the entire county because it would be available. And I hope that you'll show support for that. Not everyone is able to stay home, as I stated. And I just think it's a good thing that we've been striving for many years. It's also a good tool in retention and recruitment of staff for this district. And I noted that there will also be a concentration on those who cannot afford to pay for standard full-time daycare, and possibly would free up some slots for people who can do that. So I just want to think about that in a positive way and how it would affect the community to be in cooperation with others in the community, which is one of the stated goals, is to engage more with the county and other entities in the county. And that would be a very positive step. So I ask that you would consider that in a positive manner. So I've also heard some rumors about that some have been pursuing possible book bans in our community. And I would just encourage you to get the community input, if that is a goal of any of you. I don't really know that for sure, but also consider the consequences of doing something like that. You might look around the state of places who have done that and the attention they have attracted from entities such as the ACLU, and consider what we will lose if we go there. So get community input if that is a pursuant thing for you all. So thank you.
Thank you for taking the time. Appreciate it. Next up is Mary Jo Bull. Or did you just sign that on an exit, Mary Jo?
I thought I had to slide it. No, I'm not.
Okay, all right. It's in this one. Right. Very good.
It's too late. You still have to talk.
3 minutes. With that, look to our presentation.
Yeah, secondary principal, you want to just come up and talk through your presentation a little bit?
Okay.
Or maybe just start with questions. I mean, they did a little report there. Maybe start with questions, or do you guys have anything to start?
Yeah, just wanted to follow up, and I know everybody got a handout, a kind of synopsis of what, each building does for credit recovery. We have to go through that with you as far as what the high school does. I don't know if you guys have any questions. You want to make sure that it's clear that not everybody's eligible for credit recovery. You have to have a 55% or higher in order to try to recover that class. Particularly the core class is what we focus on. We do the credit recovery, and that is working with counselor to work with those teachers and setting up what particular standards that student needs to achieve to get that credit, or what they need to do in order to recover that class. So it's not like you can just sit around and do anything, do nothing all semester and then go recover your credit in a couple of weeks. So I'll make sure that's clear. We had about 19 students recover credits from first semester over about a 2-week period. Their first part of January during our Tiger Time. Been a very successful program for us, trying to get these kids somewhat back on track so we're not overloaded. Toward a lot of cases, sometimes the kid just gives up, so there's too much to do. So we try to give them some hope and give them a chance to earn that credit back, try to keep moving towards graduation. So questions from the high school, Clayton High School perspective on that?
Here, Mike, Greg, I think it said in there one class, okay?
Correct.
Is that right?
Recover one class.
Okay, so, and I'm just going off from a year ago, I'm just asking, so I'm going off a year ago. This is in the June board meeting, okay, from the roundup, and it said that there was, over 4 days, there's 27 students completed 48 semester credits. 15 of them obtained a single, and 12 completed more than one from previous semesters. You know, that's more than one, I
That's
guess.
more than
I'm just kind of for,
If it was in, yeah, and if that was in June, that's from our summer learning
Okay.
money, so.
Yeah, so in December, we only allow them to do one credit if there's such a short amount of time.
Okay.
In the summer, if they come for, there were 2 weeks, 1 year in the summer, and last year was 4 days. And they could, same criteria, the 55 or higher, and if they wanted to stay and work all day, they could get more done than one class. So that was the difference, just in the June when they had 4 days, full days.
I'm not trying to, I'm trying to stay away from thinking of getting 2 credits in 4 days. I hope you understand to me, it just doesn't, you know what I'm saying? And counselors and teachers, everybody's involved with that. And I guess there's a little bit of difference in the junior high, is that right?
There is, yeah. Excuse me.
Do you mind just explain a little bit of that?
Right, real quick, we're more about the learning side versus the grade, because when our kids go from 8th grade to high school, I think we purge all the grades in power school and end up with no grades at all when they go to high school. Pretty much, so it's a matter of, it's a learning thing more than anything, so, we spend time on the standards and things like that, but at the same time, we, have for example, we had a kid who struggled with math, and what we did is went back and everything he missed in math, or she missed in math, we got those standards for them. They worked on those on Saturdays, and our goal there is kids in credit recovery, chances are they may struggle during the regular year as well, so we don't want to combine those two. And so we're gonna come in on Saturdays, and they love that. Coming in Saturdays, and came in and worked hard, got it done.
They were in and out there, they got their stuff done, they could leave. And so some of them came one Saturday, some came two in January, and so overall it worked out pretty well, but then we're kind of chasing the learning, I guess, more in the grade, if you will, because we know there's some concepts and things there they'll need down the road, they gotta get now. Because, math and whatever, it's important to get those now, or else they'll be struggling more when they get to high school.
How many kids in the middle school did you have?
We had 19, we had 20 actually.
And the history of it's been good. I mean, it's worked out good.
Yes, we try to find, during the school year, like using our, what we call our tiger time for part of that, because the chance, it's hard to get kids, especially high school kids in after, on their own time. And so this is a chance to get them while they're in our building and try to help them out, just try to keep them back on track towards graduations. And we had more than 19 in our program, but not all of them were able to recover that particular credit. So those that came in and used their time wisely, the focus got that credit. So,
Anybody else? Do you have any questions?
I do have some questions. I'll back up here. What are we doing to help catch the students up before they get to the credit recovery?
depending on the student, we try to use their PLT time and Tiger time to have a teacher request that student come to that particular class to work with whatever content area they need to get caught up. The student is on an IEP, we try to utilize their study skills time to get that time caught up. Just trying to find time during the day to get them in our building or get them in the classroom. Contact parents, let them know what's going on. Try to use their support to get the kids, just find ways to get them in and focus on what they need to get that worksheet turned in, or that paper, that test made up, whatever the case may be. Our freshman core teachers have a 30-minute study hall with any student that has a D or F, any freshmen, so they bring them in every day during Tiger time that first half, and we're trying to get them caught back up. So.
Okay, thank you for that answer. I have a couple more questions. How does this work with sports eligibility? If they aren't identified as needing or for credit recovery until the grades are complete, how does that work?
We follow CASA as far as sports eligibility, so that we go by semesters.
Okay.
So the student has to pass 5 classes each semester in order to participate the following semester.
Okay.
So basically, it's 3 Fs. If you're failing 3 or more classes, you're not eligible for that semester. So.
Okay, a concern I had was about the credit recovery was, I think the half the credit, that's great, but it seems like the only incentive to avoid credit recovery is potentially not having an F on your transcript. What other incentives are, I mean, I know you get the credit recovered, but the workload and the time don't seem to match what the other students did all semester. If we're giving them 2 weeks during Tiger time, how have they done the same amount of workload and put in the same amount of time and effort?
Good question. I think from our standpoint, we've identified these are getting students that have 55% or higher. Some of them are just right there on the border of being able to pass the class to begin with. So it's a matter of going back and seeing what that particular student struggled with. Like math, here are some particular standards that kid struggled with. So let's get with that teacher and find out how we can make that up. It's not trying to recover the entire semester. It's focusing, zeroing in on what particular piece of that content area that student struggled with.
Okay.
And so you're right, it's not the same as doing an entire semester worth of work, but those kids, in a lot of cases, it was just, they were so close to passing to begin with. It wasn't that they had to complete everything. There were some things they did well.
Okay.
They did pass, so. And obviously, rewarding for that. We talked about the eligibility, getting them back on track to graduate. What we see is when a kid is multiple credits or a grade level behind, it's really hard to get them to stay motivated to get back on track to try to graduate. Sometimes unfortunately we lose kids because of that, so
Is 60% still passing? Karen?
it is.
Okay, all right, so we're looking at gaining 5%. I mean, that's what
Right.
we're,
That's what, yeah,
putting a pass on.
we're not taking that kid, they got a 35%, you know, I'm trying to get them.
He walks out with a B, so. Yeah.
Anybody below 55% has to make up the class.
Right.
Basically.
Good.
They still have an F on their transcript too, just so you know that, like, even if they recover the credit, they still have an F. We
They,
just,
they just passed the
You just
course.
add the key.
Okay.
They have the credit, they keep the other.
Okay.
Okay.
Which does affect their GPA
Really?
on everything they're turning in.
So I-
That senior year.
I like the fact that it's for kids 55% and higher, 55 to 59%. We've looked at the statistics. I mean, we were at the KSB meeting when they talked about the importance of having that high school diploma to be able to be independent adults. And so I like that this is a way for us to try to get these kids that are right on the cusp to get that diploma so that they can have a job and be independent, successful adults. And they have already done the work. Like you can't skip the entire semester and have a 55. They just did the work poorly. Or did it to the best of their ability and weren't able to achieve that D. So it's not like if they had a 10%, that would be somebody who did none of the work. But these kids probably at least turned in enough to get that diploma.
I appreciate you guys coming, sharing information, and there may be a few others, us being new, we're just trying to figure out some of what's going on, so I appreciate you coming.
Thank you.
The information. Thank you.
Jacqueline?
Can I, before you go on to consent, can I share something on this? So I set in on a 21st century, grant, Zoom today, and for what I had originally put in that you guys saw when it came to you all was for, and board docs is acting up on.
Yeah,
That's okay. I know what I said. All right, got it. So I put in a grant proposal to submit for the middle school. We've done that before for them. They had a 5-year run where they had the grant. We did 2 years where we funded it and the numbers went down and so we dropped it. If they don't get it, we won't pursue it any further type of thing. But in my Zoom today, I think our high schools, and this kind of blends into credit recovery, but our high schools, and our middle school at Wakefield could all be possibly eligible too. And so the actual one I put in there, it says middle school, but there's a chance I just might be able to write it 6-12 and encompass any kids who are, especially, we can target kids who maybe are falling behind and try to get them help periodically throughout the semester. If you look across the state, a lot of the 21st century grants are more elementary. It's really hard to get a secondary one, but it's also worth a shot. We're not asking for it if you don't get it. So I just wanted to say that because I added that in the board docs. I just put on there that I was going to pursue it possibly grades 6 through 12 if they meet the, they're looking at the free and reduced lunch rates is how they're determining if they're eligible or not. So.
Appreciate that. All right, next up is the consent agenda.
See,
items.
Jacqueline, yours isn't working either. Is that right?
No, this one is just, I'm just not gonna click on anything and it'll work.
Yeah.
But the other one says oops, and it's, yeah,
That's
so
what we got.
I'm not gonna touch this one because it's actually working. I just won't try to open it.
Consent agenda item. There's some of those.
I mean, we approve the consent agenda.
Motion approved.
Second?
And second, all those in favor? Carried, got it all. Reports. So one of the things when I visited with Brett, just trying to consolidate things a little bit, and I had more, so in the board reports is where we also ended up putting the positive news, so we just covered it all at one time, so we're not doing it once and then coming back and doing it. So from a board reports thing is that the first thing I see is that we have decided to, I visited with Brett and a couple of you had talked to me about adding a third person. And he's gonna talk about that in his report, possibly to the agenda thing, which I think would be a good idea. What I also believe if we can discuss it, if anybody has any problem, I think the start of March, we will start our board meetings, with the Pledge of Allegiance. If anybody, discussion, I don't know if we need to do a vote on that. I see here, nobody who attends.
Set the agenda, so I guess they have the choice of whether to participate or not.
Right, and anybody in the crowd, it's not required by any of them, and, we went down to the thing at Lincoln School, they all did it, I know the city council does it, I think it's a good thing, but it's not meant to pressure anybody else into doing it. But, it would be a good deal to start our board meetings that way, if we call it the way. Anybody have any comments on that? No? Positive stuff, I tell you that the bus barn people with what they went through with the fuel and the buses, I mean, it's tremendous what they did and all the hours and went down there. And so appreciate Mike and his crew, doing everything that they did and bad temperatures and all the buses that were out and moving. So, great job by them. And we were moving a lot of people that weekend and the weather getting that cold and I have just with Brett, just like anything of assessing that and can we prevent it from happening in the past and but it was quite a mess and they did a great job of taking care of that. We appreciate the extra effort. Anybody else have anything? And we got to thank you to Rise and Shine. I'm telling you, that was awesome to go down and watch that whole program and see those kids. I got a kick out of that. And I'm like I say, I'm usually allergic to elementary school anyway, with those kids. So that was a great job.
Okay, on, this right here, we're using this as positive board comments, basically.
Yeah.
Okay, I just have a few of them here I'd like to share on that. One thing, a special thank you to our district counselors during National School Counseling Week. That is a very important position and it impacts everybody across the board. So it is very much needed and very much appreciated. Thank you on that. Another thing here, congratulations to our Wakefield and CCCHS Winter Homecoming King and Queen candidates and to our district wrestlers that achieved 100 career wins and the 3 Lady Tiger wrestlers going to state. I thought that was an excellent accomplishment also for our district. Another thing is that I noticed our district schools celebrated Kansas Day and many thanks to our volunteers and staff that took their time to show our state history. And anyway, I feel that is a very important part of our child's education. Kudos to our CCCHS and Wakefield scholars on the recent competition wins. Nice work to our CCCHS Tiger Forensics for placing 3rd with 3 students qualifying for state. That was wonderful. Also, CCCHS and Wakefield Y-Link programs are doing great things for our students, in my opinion. This is an excellent program, and I want to thank each and every sponsor for helping out. Because to me, it impacts everybody across the board in our schools, in our communities. And that just means that to me, we lead by example. And it's an excellent program, I believe, to continue forward. So I just want to say gratitude on my behalf and thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Not, we'll move on to Brett.
Yeah, mine's having a little trouble pulling up too. So, I don't have a lot this month. KSD audit results, that's our annual audit enrollment, and just, we have what we submit for and what the actual is, and just know that we always submit for what more than what we think we're gonna get. And so you can see those 2 columns. Happy to take any questions on that.
need a couple of board members for negotiations, need a board member for our retention and recruitment committee, you can just let me know if you're interested in that, and then we can communicate with you. And then as Tracy opened with, we tried this a few years ago and, we didn't have a lot of success with. But we want to offer it again. If you would like to participate in agenda planning, Tracy and I have a standing meeting the Wednesday before our board meeting. We'll set up a rotating schedule or send something out to you guys so that we can put it on a rotating basis. So we can alternate through the rest of you if you'd like to. So August will send some info out. If you want to sign up for a time, feel free to do so. And then with the benefits piece, we're still have some other meetings and some investigation and some inquiry to do, and we're just not quite ready to move forward with anything yet. So maybe next month we can talk a little bit more about it. And then last thing was, if you're not paying attention to our public, to our board, to our staff, pay attention to what's going on in Topeka with the legislators and some of, especially as it relates to special ed funding. There's a hearing tomorrow on the Education Committee regarding special education funding. And in my humble opinion, I believe what they're trying to do is not serving justice for the kids across Kansas and just moving money around and saying we're giving more money to support a federal or state mandate program isn't right. And so pay attention. If you have a strong opinion on it, please contact your legislator.
I think I also read it right that they city court thing is over. They closed that and said the legislature's done their job at funding and they no
So
longer-
they're
they no longer have
stopping
that over their head.
oversight. Yeah.
Yeah, they no longer have that over their head. So. Thank you. Any questions for Brett?
Do we have anybody that would like to do negotiation? And we don't have to know this month immediately, but it would be nice to know so you can get your training done, because you gotta go to a required training.
Me and Linda did that, right? At Wichita. Okay, so anybody else with, we went through and done it, but anybody else? Or
I did it for 28
Did it for a
years.
long time, yeah.
It's time for somebody else.
So basically, once we generally, we have to trade letters with CCA, find out what they want to talk about, what the board wants to talk about. And then we have generally waited until the legislative session is done to start, because money's usually the biggest negotiated item. And until we know what the legislator is going to do with the school finance formula, we haven't, for lack of a better term, wasted each other's time until we know how much money we have, until we know what insurance benefits are gonna do, until we know what property cat, until we get some more information. And so I would anticipate we wouldn't start meeting until mid-April. And then we usually meet, is it once a week or once every other week?
Every other week.
Every other week. And we usually pick an evening, usually at, what do we do, 6-ish? So. If you guys want to think about it and get back to us next month, that's fine too. I don't know that we're gonna do a lot in between now and then anyhow, so.
if we change the fringe, is that in the negotiation? Or the Excel, the insurance you're looking at?
That would not be.
Okay. Any questions, Jim? Anita, she's not here, but she gave her report.
Yeah, the advisory board asked that our director attend another district's meeting at least once a year. So tonight, I think she's at Blue Valley's board meeting. All of us have our board meetings at the same time.
Is that, and so then Jacqueline, your report?
Okay, I'm gonna hit on 3 things. The rest, I think you can just read and then ask questions if you have them, but to start with, I want to show you where our draft plan for our KISA accreditation is, but it also kind of ties together one of my last pieces on here. So I'm gonna go from our website to the Board of Education. And I added one thing on here, but I just want you to know, all I did was move things around and I put the image up here from the strategic plan. we had 3 columns and I just put them all over into one. The one that was added, just so you know, is agendas. I know we have board docs, but this is a PDF form. So hopefully people can go and see that. So I'm gonna, and if we go on down, everything's still the same, picture and then open forums down here. So I'm gonna go into the mission statement and goals. And so these are those 4 areas. These 4 pictures represent the 4 areas from your, on your placemat, the thing in front of you, the 4 different areas. And so the KISA plan, which is our accreditation plan, it falls under the responsive culture for learning. And so I've linked the action plan and it does say draft across it because our team is still working on it. We have a couple spots in here. We're trying to determine our goals. So we're working on that. But just as a reminder, our first system goal is based on reading and our second system goal is more on employability skills. But as we're working on this and editing, it is always available. So again, it's under the mission statement and goals. And then right down here, the action plan. And there will eventually be action plans under each of these as those get developed. That people can go check out. So as we're finishing our action plan, we're working with our teams, having district leadership team. They're gonna, this Friday, Brett and I are reviewing building action plans and kind of giving the principals some feedback on some things to go back and work with their team on. They're gonna sign up to come and present in those pieces, but we do have some members of our team that have been working on more of the employability skills. I kind of referenced the survey we were doing of the 16 career clusters. So Matt, Lisa, and Sarah are here. If you guys want to come on up, they're going to share the results of that kind of survey we did and how that went. Yeah. So just a reminder of our goals, and that top one is that responsive culture of learning. That's where this is all coming from, or where it lives. And so our first goal again is related to reading, specifically focusing on the not only our ELA state assessment, but our reading screeners that we give to our kiddos, K through 12. But our second area is developing socially prepared students with employability skills. And our data pieces, we are monitoring our chronic absenteeism and graduation rate. So then the question comes, if we're doing that, what does it look like when those kids are ready to graduate? Go ahead.
Okay. So, as Jacqueline kind of mentioned, we're part of a work group that's been looking at employability skills, what we need, how we can best prepare our students to enter the workforce. That's our goal, that they're producing graduates who are productive members of society. So we identified in December at our last meeting, about 50 people, community members from different parts of the community to reach out to try to interview, to answer 2 questions, which I'll share in a minute. And you can kind of see up there, we tried to get people from just about every career area in our community. And we ended up finding 26 who we were able to reach to talk to us. And we asked them 2 questions. The first was, what are some habits you see in your best employees or coworkers that you wish all of your employees had? And then what skills do you think students coming out of high school are lacking? So those are the 2 things we were wanting to know.
So the first question, habits of best employees. I mean, none of this is surprising, I don't think, to anybody. I think it is kind of interesting that communicator, so the bigger the word, the more times it was mentioned on there. So I think it is interesting that communicator was the number 1 thing that they said, but all of these are things that I think that any of you would say, you'd want to see in a good employee. And I think it's things that we're teaching our kids too. So a lot of good answers there.
The next one is things that they feel like coming out of high school that graduates maybe are lacking. The communicator is a big one. A little bit more that I heard from that was, making eye contact, having good verbal, respectful, assertive communication, the technology piece, learning how to communicate face-to-face also learning how to work hard from the bottom up, do hard things, take constructive feedback was also one of the things with communicator, like learning how to take constructive criticism and use that to develop themselves. So I felt like most of the people that we talked with were very positive about this of, yeah, they would like to give the input, and it was kind of very positive that it was a good place to start with, kind of those soft skills, not just what's gonna get you a job on paper, but what's gonna help you keep a job and excel in your career.
It's very, very similar to what KSD Randy Watson did, for those of you who've seen it a few years back, and it was similar to that. They were around the state and went all around Kansas and said, I don't know how they asked thousands of people and said, what do you want to see? So it's really just a smaller version of that.
So we're gonna use this to look at what are some things we can do in the schools to help fit the needs that we're hearing from the community.
And we know we're doing this already, but we don't have a real organized approach. And so that's what we're seeking, is to making sure that from pre-K all the way through 12, we all know what we're all doing and that we're reinforcing those skills all the way through. So our plan moving forward, we haven't shared the results here with our whole committee, our whole group. So we'll be meeting again soon to kind of discuss all that, to kind of assess our needs. Where are we at? What kind of resources do we need to make this happen, to make sure that we are being organized in our approach and reaching every kid. And then we'll be back with you to share kind of what we think we might need. And then we'll make a proposal to you or ask you for a recommendation, what we'd like to see happen. So that's kind of where we're headed. We just kind of want to let you know our process. We'll be back soon to share more, hopefully.
Thank you.
Also on my report that I wanted to talk about is I attached the Wakefield preschool survey that we had done, kind of listed the communication avenues we use, the results. We had child check in Clay Center on Friday, February 9th, and we have child check in Wakefield next Thursday. And so we want to make sure we leave that survey open through that time, and as families come, we'll check and make sure they've filled it out, and if they have not, we'll ask them to. So if those numbers change or anything looks different, we'll come back in March and give you that update as well. Last thing I want to talk about is on the technology side. I want to show you one more thing on the, we're required to have different accountability pieces on our website. And so I'm going to come into our accountability side. And I went with images again. So this link will take you to the financial accountability, performance accountability that are on KSDE's website. These again are other requirements that we have to post on our website, but this is a new one. And this is our career and technical education data. One thing I want you to note is that the Perkins funds that we receive, we don't directly receive those as a district because we don't get very much. I would say most 4A and under schools, that size, your money is given to a service center and to a consortium. So we're with Smoky Hill out of Salina. And the reason it is done that way is they can utilize those resources. For example, maybe they have a demonstration for a biology class that a health science group would use for a dissection. They can buy one of those or 10 of them, whatever it may be, and they can print those out at no cost, just give those to the districts that are in their consortium. Those things that you use once or twice, you can just borrow it and give it back instead of spending the money and having it sit on your shelf 168 days of your school year, right? So all of our money goes to Salina, and then we're given our portion. And roughly it's about $6,000 in equipment, and I'll be bringing that to you guys and sharing how we spent that in sometime this summer. But so any data that you see, it's that whole consortium. And I don't know off the top of my head how many districts are in our Smoky Hill one, but I'm going to guess 30 to 40. It's quite a few schools. So, but I wanted to show that is up on there. And then the last thing I wanted to do was just give you a picture I printed off of the 5-year technology plan. I'm not asking for anything tonight. Take one. I don't know if I gave enough over there. So the one that's highlighted in green, that purchase came at the beginning of the year, and that was the second half of our staff laptops. You can see that in section 2 and section 3, we make our kind of a rotating purchase every single year. We usually come to you guys in March and ask for an RFP, bring a proposal in April, and then hopefully get it here by May. That allows our summer staff to kind of get those things ready. You'll also notice down at the bottom in section 8, that's where we've kind of put cybersecurity. We don't have anything in section 7 this year under infrastructure, but I also put the funding sources at the bottom. So I just wanted to give you that heads up. So when I come and ask, and if there's any questions you think of, maybe not right now, if you think of them between now and March, just send it to Mr. Nelson or myself. That way I can make sure you have what you need before those things come. So, and I know I felt really, I'm showing you this, and as a board, you guys haven't really looked at all the different plans, but it's coming, like that's coming this spring. And so in order for those devices to come, I wanted to give you that heads up. That way, if you have any questions or things we need to look at or consider, we can make sure we're ready to do it. So.
Anybody have any questions? Well, we'll move on to discussion business items. First thing is the policy updates.
He's been out there for a while and around some approval. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Any question?
I move to approve the policy updates as presented.
Second. Second, all those in favor? Carries 7-0.
No.
Oh, sorry, all those opposed, sorry, I need to look at the whole thing. One, carry 6-1. 6-0. Next up is add a new position for the assistant boys golf, Green.
Thank you.
And I'll just tell you, this is already a part of our supplemental contract. It's already been negotiated. It's already in there. Greg just makes these assessments from year to year based on the size of our groups. And so I just wanted to make that clarification so you know, it's not a new position to the contract. It's just they haven't had one for a while. Numbers have grown. And I'll like Greg to you.
Yeah, we've, last several years consistently hit that 12 to 16 range for, participation in boys golf, and currently have 13 meets on our schedule between varsity and JV. We'd like to get a few more JV meets scheduled, and that, Coach Oliver has done tremendous trying to balance all that the last few years, but as he and I talk after each season, it's becoming apparent it'd be nice to have some help, some consistent support, whether it be taking a group to the meet while he's back working with kids at practice or vice versa. Just have a little more structure there. It kind of falls in line with what we've done with our tennis programs. We had an assistant boys coach probably a couple of years ago now because of our numbers and different varsity and JV schedules. So just kind of presenting to the board the possibility of getting Coach Allwood some help and support with our boys. I think we're going to consistently see that number, and it'll be a year by year. Whoever we hire will know that it'll be based on numbers for that particular season. So, but we're expecting, 14, 15 kids out this year as well. So questions on any of that?
What's the max that you'll have that before you wouldn't hire them? 8, 10?
I would say if we can, you can take 6 to a meet. So if we can have 10 to 12, I would probably ask for an assistant. Anything less than 10, we manage. Because we've had teams come show up at 4 or 5 for our.
Don't you have to have 5 for a team to count as a team?
As a team score, yeah. That's, it's the individual. But, yeah.
And for our new board members, it's, the supplemental is always a percent of the base based on your years of experience. So the exact amount does fluctuate depending on who it is and how much experience they have or don't have. But around $2,000 is what it would call. Give or take experience.
Do you feel like there's teachers may be interested, Craig? in-
I would think so. I mean, I don't have anybody in mind, but I'll call all students. If it's the okay, I'll post it. And I would imagine we'll have a few that will be interested. Periodically, we've had staff that are members, just that are out there, will help kind of help Coach Albert from time to time. Just nothing consistent, nothing, you know, not paid.
Bill, any question? I'm gonna give final approval to hire a 1.0 FTE assistant boys golf coach for the 2024 season.
Second.
A second, any other discussion? All those in favor? Motion carries 7-0.
Thank you very much. Yep.
The multi-generational child care and community center.
Yeah, Natalie is with us in the audience and Audrey, the director of Head Start, was also going to attend, but she's under the weather. Obviously, with the Grove Clay County and the city finding out about this just about a week ago, a little over a week ago. Now it's time for the partners who are involved to indicate their level of commitment in regards to partnering. And so, done a lot of behind the scenes work on now that it could be a reality on the details. And so, we had a great meeting with Head Start on late last week, and their Head Start performance standards are changing. They're looking at rewriting their grant, and they're also trying to target birth to 3 population too, because for childcare they recognize the need. And so we had very brief, very initial conversations, but there's a lot of interest in them also partnering as a part of this facility and possibly operating a room and also sharing some costs with us. And so that's, great news. We know the more collaboration that we have, the greater opportunity there is to share costs and things. And so that's a very exciting possibility to be able to partner with Head Start to serve that population. Last week, the City of Clay Center did approve with their city council that they would own and operate the building. So if we were to enter in this partnership, we would not have any deferred maintenance responsibility. So we wouldn't have any responsibility of the physical facility itself. That would be the responsibility of the city. Basically, we would lease the childcare space, which is 4 rooms. I shared those in your packet. And so our operating costs as it relates to facility would be in the form of a rent, but it would be $3,600 a year for the 4 rooms or $300 a month. And that would be our only responsibility to the actual, and it's really not a physical responsibility. In regards to, and we have no construction costs, no in-kind match, anything like that. And so we would have no money out of pocket in regards to startup. Natalie has secured several other grants that would fully equip all the rooms with everything they needed. So we would not have any startup cost in that regard. Basically, our only cost to the facility would be, our supply, what we needed for supplies, and then the $3,600. And in that regard, so there is 4 rooms. Head Start's preliminarily thinking that they might run 1 room. We had a Zoom meeting with KDHE today, which is licensure, about what that looks like if there's 2 public entities in the same facility. And they said it wouldn't be an issue. You would just do an MOU. The district would license the facility, and we would have an MOU with Head Start, and they could operate one of the rooms under that licensure. They're pretty excited about that. Preliminarily, there's no long-term commitment to us. As you'll recall, we had the Family Patterson Foundation grant. It's $175,000 that is secured. 100 of that is for purely operating costs. The other portion goes towards some of the materials and the things to supply the 4 rooms, so they would be ready to go. And so, the only rules for the Patterson Family Foundation grant is that it has to go towards childcare slots in the community, operating costs for childcare slots. There's no end date on those funds, so they could continue to sit in account. And as we need to supplement, any portions of this, it would come out of those monies. If the school district did not, if we said, no, we're not going to do this, that money was designated to the school district for childcare, so I think we would have to give it back, or grow Clay County would. And so that would be $175,000 of lost funds for childcare in our community. So that's, in my opinion, something to consider, but at any rate, I did, Childcare Aware has a care team, and they support entities and anybody who's interested in opening childcare. They have as a part of that support team, they have a budget software that I included in your packet that they give to new providers that are thinking about doing that, to use as a budget tool. Obviously, the budget that I put together and put in the board packet, it's a very conservative budget. You know, we're not looking at and saying, hey, we're gonna try to, bite off one chunk and do all 4 rooms at one time. My recommendation, if we do it, would be to start with 2 to see how it goes and pilot it a little bit. I think the budget only has 8 children in each room. As an example, it has taxes, FICA, Medicare benefits included. Used a similar finance formula that we use for building budgets for supplies and inflated it quite a bit just to be extra safe. And depending on ratios and rates, you are going to have fluctuation. It's going to be different depending on how many toddlers versus older children you have and what your ratios allow. And so it is a hypothetical, we don't have a glass ball. We don't know exactly if we were to do it, what those rates would be, but again, tried to be pretty conservative. Looking at each room, it'd be about 4,000 if in that exact scenario. But again, if we do it, it's never going to be the exact scenario, but we're looking at $4,000 to $5,000 a room would be pretty conservative that we would use from the Patterson Family Foundation money to supplement, to ensure that we don't use any school district funds. So that current budget would open those rooms and would not use any money from our general fund or LOP to supplement. And again, we'd reevaluate annually if we chose to do it. If there's no long-term commitment, we have those funds sitting there to supplement any surprises or worst case scenario. If you had to, you weren't full, generally you don't open a facility and you're not full day one. And so those funds could be used to supplement. So really from a risk standpoint, there really isn't any on our part financially, because we do have that Patterson family money secured that we could use to supplement any surprises. And again, reevaluate annually or as often as we needed to, depending on how things would go. Just looking through my notes here.
Is the other grant that Natalie came to us last fall, is that still available? Like 300,000 or 400,000, or maybe I'm wrong with that. Or are you using that for something else now since we didn't do it back then?
No, all the funding that you mean the community tax credits? So I've probably got 4 of the grants that relate to childcare to help with this, whether it's good, part was for construction, parts for toys and supplies. Again, like the one with the Patterson was strictly for schools to use, but we got additional funds from the Patterson through Childcare Aware, along with money for a playground and fencing, things like that. And then the tax credits that go towards the construction that we've been selling those. We can sell them. It's a 70% tax credit. We still have about 100,000 to sell, but we've done pretty good. So, and we think now that we actually got it's 3.642 million is what we received from the grant. And then we had about another 700,000 in matching funds. to go towards this building itself. And then again, some of that is for specifically for the childcare portion of it.
And we did talk with licensure and childcare where, our regular food service, we met with Chartwell's, to make sure our regular food service program, they would just cook the food in the central kitchen and on their regular route would drop the food by. And we would, we're already eligible for the CACFP program, which is the food reimbursement program for early childhood. And so, it really, Chartwell said that many meals, it wouldn't affect their operations. They wouldn't have to add any staff or anything like that. So it wouldn't be any additional costs to us in that regard. But, the plan would be that they would serve the food.
I just wanted to make one comment. Since the last board meeting, when I was here to ask for your support to write the accelerator grant, I met with the new mayor of Wakefield, and they have developed a child care committee that I'm working with. There will be a survey going out for their community to see how many spots they need, whether they really need it, what the priority is of the community there, to kind of assess some of that data. Governor Kelly has, in the legislature, has put forth another 30,000 in accelerator funds to continue to help provide childcare, which then if Wakefield had the data, would be available maybe for some of those funds. So.
Happy to take any question.
In your, on the page where it shows the hours of operation, it's open 10.5 hours a day. And so it's 52 hours a week and you're only budgeting for 40.
7:30 to 5:30 or 8 to 5, it's gonna depend on our clientele. We just used what CAC or what Child Care Aware had in there.
Mm-hmm.
And so each employee would only work 40 hours. You use float staff to cover off hours. And so like we used an example out of another center that had recently opened, and that's a huge advantage to partnering with Head Start, is because we could share staff, especially the float staff. So you have full timers and then you can have part timers or a full time covering a part time, but the floaters. So each person would only work 40 hours. So even your lead teacher wouldn't work 52 hours a week. You'd have, everyone would work their 40, but the floaters, you'd have a rotating schedule. So you cover the beginning of it. And then depending on, this is all things that we are going to change depending on who we would serve if we would do it. The examples that we've talked about, some other schools that are using it, similar programs. When you serve mostly school district employees, the majority of your rooms or children are only attending school hours. So in those other scenarios, like if they have multiple rooms, at the end of the day, they'll go down to 1, from 3 to 1, if most of the children are school district employees, because they get picked up at 4 o'clock because our teachers are off or our paras are off or food service workers. And so your staffing costs go down significantly if you serve mostly school district employees. But until, again, glass ball, we don't have one. It'll be dependent upon the clientele that we serve. The good news is, in year 1, we have that $100,000 setting aside so that any surprises, any things that we haven't thought about, we can use to supplement. And again, if it's too much or it doesn't work, we don't have a long-term commitment. I would hope that wouldn't happen. But again, I look at things like I do everything for the district, risk versus reward. What is the potential risks in trying this? Financially, I cannot see that there is one because we do have $100,000 sitting there to try it. Work out the bugs. What do we not know that we wish all of those kinds of things. And so,
I talked to a board member in Concordia, I think it's their second year on theirs.
I believe so. And theirs is an in-home.
Right, and he said they lost 51,000 last year. And it's right across the street from the high school, and so the students go over and help, kids that are interested in that, go and help some, and so they just have one worker.
Mhm.
So,
Yeah, and the big thing there is the people I talk to is when you have facility costs involved, it is impossible to make it make sense. And so if you're in charge of the facility, if you're in charge of, gas, electric, food, you have to put a new roof on it, you have to pay for it's very hard to make it work. Whereas in this scenario, we're not responsible for any facility cost, and it makes a huge difference.
And has this been, this proposed, building itself? Do we have a legal document from the city of Clay Center stating that, they will own the entire facility, maintain the facility, and pay for the utilities of the
I don't
facility?
think, you're directing that at me, you're looking at me, Dave. I don't think that, there's nothing's documented at this point. City council talked about it last week at their meeting, kind of want to move forward. Those are the talking points, you know, that everybody's directing, but I don't think, I mean, there's no documentation between city, school, county, anything right now, unless Natalie knows something, I don't.
The
But
school or the city voted to accept the grant funds to move forward with the project.
So they basically are the owner
Yes.
of the project?
Yeah.
Okay. Now, on, my next question is that the proposed, what was she here? The proposed community partners that are potentially involved, there's several of them here that are listed. Do we have anything in writing on legal documents from any of these partners on a commitment? Or do we have anything also pertaining to a dollar amount that they would be willing to participate? Well, to where all this is upfront with our community and our district patrons, and that everybody knows across the board who is responsible for what.
Sure, those are all things we've talked about, and so right now, in like the motion today, or the recommended motion doesn't commit us to anything, but until for all of those things to happen, MOUs and agreements in writing, and you're doing this and you're doing what, the city and all the other partners has to know who's willing to continue going down this path to develop all those things. So that's really all we're doing or asking for tonight is saying, hey, yeah, with this on the surface looks good enough. Keep working on it. Look at MOUs, have, different community partners agree on formally what they're gonna do or when they're not gonna do. And so the city can't move forward until they know who else is willing to potentially move forward. So. Yeah.
So I can tell you, they wouldn't have given me the grant if I didn't have a letter in writing signed by the individuals saying that they would do this. I do have those. I can forward them to you if you'd like. I do have a commitment from Pawnee. I have a commitment from the task force. In fact, I just met with them. They're gonna vote formally at their board. All of these have boards that we have to go through to get the formal action now that we've actually received the funds. Not much you can do if you don't have any funds. But once you have the funds, then you can start putting together. This is where the real work begins. But I guarantee you, they wouldn't have given me the funds if I didn't have all those signed letters from those partners saying, we would do this, and this is how much we'll pay, this is what we'll do.
Okay.
So, yeah.
My next question in itself would be, has the community, for instance, and, such as your entity, have you, researched at all about a private entity, such as private business, being able to operate this child care facility
You can't do it. It's very difficult to cash flow a private entity.
But there's no
Entity that wants to
research
make
been done at all?
Yeah, entity that wants to make money. I mean, most people that want to make money, I mean, if they want to break even or just make a little bit, that's great. But if they want to make money, that's.
That doesn't sound very good for us if we're not gonna break even or
Well, but you
be
guys have
in the
supplemental
red.
grant income that other people.
Well, I understand that,
get.
but grant money runs out eventually.
Mhm.
So to me, I mean, if it only costs $3,600 a year, why doesn't the city take that on? And I mean, it's a city of Clay Center community center. It's not a Clay County entity. It's a city of Clay Center entity. As far as that goes. I mean, I don't understand that, but maybe I'm,
Well, then we
Old-fashioned.
lose the recruitment tool for our teachers and our staff to have priority placement at the childcare.
Well, you know, when we first started out childcare, we talked about building a building at Lincoln, we talked about putting a room at the middle school, we talked about taking care of our people. And now it doesn't seem like we're doing that. We're taking care of the city's concern more than we're taking care of USD 379's concern.
No, I believe the priority placement goes to USD 379.
Well, and Brett says 8 people a classroom, this says
No,
40
that's
to
what it
48
says.
people for the 4, so that's 12 per classroom. I mean,
I tried to build a budget that didn't fill it up and say it was full,
you know,
just so it was reality. I didn't want to set the maximum funding or the lowest. I wanted to go somewhere in between to where it wasn't, you know, I could have stuck 12 kids in a room there and given you a budget that showed you that, but I didn't want to have to turn around and say, oh, well, we don't have 12 and now we only have this much. And so that's why I put, just to be
how many
very
staff
conservative.
members of ours do you think will utilize this at the day one?
You know, the examples that I have from other districts that have done it, within a year and a half, they're completely full and sitting with a waiting list.
Having gone
Of their
through this
employees.
at the hospital, there was a gap when it was started that people who already had daycare didn't move their kids over there. But, as a person who has the new hires come through her office, as the new hires came in and I can't believe there's a daycare right across the street and then they're filled. It's not,
That doesn't answer my question.
well, because there isn't, you'd have to have a crystal ball. It's not so much to serve the current employees who already have placement, in my mind, as a recruitment tool for people that we could hire. To bring
How
them
many
in.
current employees do we have that need daycare? Does anybody know that?
How many use daycare? I
Yeah.
don't think we have that number either.
I mean, we've been told the last 6 months that we got 35 people that are eligible to retire. I doubt if they're using daycare.
Right, so in my mind, that's where
So-
this is really important, because we're not gonna get older adults to fill the vacancies.
But
the
if we
34
can't, we
vacancies.
can't tell us how many staff members we currently have that need daycare. How do we know that this is gonna be good for our staff?
Honestly, if
We
they
don't.
need daycare, they're probably not currently working. Think about that.
Well, then,
So,
I think.
so we have staff that aren't working because they don't have any daycare?
yes, in this community, yes.
So we ought to know how many people that need daycare if they're not coming to work. And we don't know
I
that
mean,
number.
if they can't apply for our jobs. They
I
can't.
think the biggest piece of data that I go back to is, and I should have brought it tonight, but was through our strategic planning process when we were at the middle school. You know, when they ranked the top priorities that came from that, number 3 was childcare. And that was the community that told us that. And that was and I don't remember how many people in that, but it was ranked number 3 is the highest need of our community was childcare. And so for me, that's a very good judge. Every survey and project that they've gone through with Grow has said childcare. You know, I sat at the county's deal in the basement of the church 2 years ago. Number 1 priority was childcare. And so, you know, then you look at some of this data on return on investment in regards to childcare, and it seems, you know, just Google it one time, but there's a ton of research out there that for quality birth to 5 programming will
So
save.
how come we didn't go
save-
out, how come we didn't go after a grant to build a great childcare facility instead of building a $4 million multi-generational building?
We did, remember, we
Well-
wrote that grant and we didn't get it.
Wasn't there another?
But the only way to get the childcare grant this way around was to add all the extra stuff to it.
That was what the grant required.
That's what the grant, so the grant came from the Department of Treasury. The state, the Children's Capital Trust Fund had been trying to get this money from the Department of Treasury for community facilities. And they asked the Department of Treasury in 2021 if they could include childcare because they knew it was such a great need in our state. And so part of this thing was to combat the issues that were exacerbated by COVID, which one of them was mental health. One was the senior isolation, another one was some youth stuff and the childcare. All of these things, that money was sent to solve problems. And this is a way for us to solve many of the community problems and provide an intergenerational facility. The seniors want to be amongst other people. The childcare might even get seniors that want to work there if they're next door and see those kids. The youth can have mentorship with some of these older people, have a place to go. We'll have mental health services there. All of these things have been proven by examples in our community of a need. And that's what it addressed, and the partners were willing to come together. So in 2019, the City of Clay Center did a feasibility study for a community/rec center, which included the senior center at that time too. And the only barrier to that, the community really wanted it, but they didn't want to pay the $8 million it would cost to get it. This is a portion of that for our community. We were one of the smallest communities to receive this grant. This is a gift to our community to be able to solve so many issues at once and have so many partners to collaborate, to keep the costs low and to not increase taxes. So.
My main point here is that I believe it is, that a facility of this magnitude for any community is a great asset, don't get me wrong on that part. That now, what I feel is that personally, that I need to perform my due diligence to get all the facts before even considering a proposal of this magnitude. And I'm thankful that we're having this type of board discussion and with your input too on that, on the question. So thank you for that. The, in reservation of that, then I do know as a government run facility, which it will be, it falls under government operated facility. As if the school does decide to do this, it falls under Title II of the ADA for child care centers. Now, Title II of ADA, you can look it up, the research on that, feel free to. And we, as a government facility, will be more under regulations to allow underserved child care services to the community, that if instead of reserving a certain slots for our employees, we can't get around that.
There's no requirements in who we serve.
Title III of the child care ADA is for schools, or not schools, excuse me, churches and private businesses that operate child care services. So what my point is that as a government funded, government operated facility, is that we better make sure that we have all the information and reviewed. And especially, I'm looking here on some of the dollar amounts too, especially when it comes to infant classroom, toddler classroom, preschooler classroom. Off of the state of Kansas cost of childcare.org, Center for American Progress. My numbers are completely way out of line, not even close to even what we're showing here on this estimate that's been provided.
Well, I'm using the advice of the team that's at the state of Kansas. They gave me the budget worksheet. I didn't make it.
Yeah.
Like they gave that to me, and it's their formulas. It's a protected worksheet, like Child Care Aware of Kansas and KDHE built this. And so I'm using the tools that have been provided for me in regards to requirements on anybody being served in the facility child-wise. I have no information that we would be required to serve anybody. Originally, if we would have used some of the
CDBG funding, you're required to serve 51% middle to income, but we didn't end up using that funding. We are required to adhere to Title VI, which is non-discrimination against race, color, creed, those kind of things. We are required to follow that, yes.
So we wouldn't own the building. Is the only governing body that if we entered into this, my understanding would be KDHE from the licensure standpoint. But to my knowledge, there would be no other entity that would tell us who we could or could not serve within the facility.
To me, I feel that these questions this link, what you brought forward. We need time for legal counsel to review these type of questions and to get back with us with the correct responses.
Sure, and I think that's all I'm asking tonight is to say, hey, we're give an indication to the city that we're willing to continue investigating, to continue planning, to continue this process of learning some of these things, answering some of these questions. And or if it is a no, just tell the city right now, it's a hard no, and we're not gonna be involved. I think from my standpoint, that's all I'm asking for. Let's not drag the city or any of these other great entities like Head Start or any of the other partners involved. Let's not drag them along if we're not gonna do it. Let's just say no now if we're not going to,
There's a
or
deadline to use the funds, so this is a fast moving project for sure.
What is the?
I was gonna ask you, what is the beginning construction date you think anticipated?
Well, as soon as we get all the people on board and solidify the plans, we're hoping by late summer,
And then what would be the projected to start this?
September of 2025 is what we're gonna go with.
What is the deadline for the grant?
It's September of 2025. That's what we, after talking to some people, but there's a no cost extension through June 2026 if needed under certain circumstances. So.
My concern is, I've only had this report for 5 days and I've had the budget for 4 days. And we took more time to decide a wording in a policy. I got a month. And here I get 4 days and 5 days. So my heart tells me hasty decisions are hard to undo. And I don't want to work backwards. And I'm also concerned, I can make a decision all day, but I'm not the person that has to carry that out. That's another person that has to go visit this facility, more staff, more people that have to be overseen and that just doesn't sit well with me. And I think we need to stay in our lane. My opinion is we're a board of education and we spread ourselves too thin. We forget the reason we're here. And, but
I have a
that's
little
my
bit of those
personal opinion.
concerns. Yeah, but with the city owning the building, it takes a huge responsibility off the school district, in my opinion. You know, I mean, that truly is how the numbers work.
So why doesn't the city run the daycare?
I think that's worth getting that answer. Yeah, I really did.
I mean, if they're willing to own the building and maintain it and pay all the utilities and pay everything else, why don't they just run the daycare?
Again, it says on page 2 of the grant board report, the target population for the child care would be children of USD 379 staff and children who meet federal poverty guidelines.
So the city can't run that with
That's
that?
part of the grant.
Educating kids, even small kids? I mean, I don't know. You guys are the experts in education. I thought moreover than the city of Clay Center.
So I did.
I don't know.
So I did, I'm not addressing the title too. I did some searching to see like what other school districts are doing this. You know, we're not reinventing the wheel here. Just a quick Google search, I came up with 10 different districts that either are implementing it now or have recently. I reached out to Caldwell's, president of their school board and their superintendent because they started theirs in 2021. And they did a very similar to us, except they had to pay for the whole building. So they started out with just 2 rooms, specifically for, well, he said I could read this. We implemented 2 daycare sites within our district at 2 different elementary schools. They are now both full and both have waiting lists. We have received great feedback from our staff and they are appreciative of the service we provide. It's a no-brainer. It has helped with retaining and recruiting teachers. The demand is so high, we are looking at opportunities to expand at this time. So that's after 2 years. So theirs was at least broke even or profitable. You know, I don't know if you guys know that almost every teacher position we have to pay them a hiring bonus. That's $2,000 for every position because we can't recruit people. This is one more tool that we could have to recruit people. And yeah, we have 34 people that are going to be retiring in the next 5 years. And we're not going to be replacing those with people that are my age or older. We're going to be replacing these with young new grads, hopefully. And those young new grads are the ones that are going to have little kids in the daycare. So from my perspective, the number one benefit of this, it's not about educating children from birth to 18. And it's about a recruitment tool so that we can keep our classroom staff and teachers.
But if the city owned it, we could still utilize it.
We wouldn't necessarily get priority, and there's some of those grants that we got are earmarked specifically for school districts, not for the city. So you are gonna lose at least the Patterson grant, right?
I'll lose $100,000.
We'll lose the,
It's childcare, yeah.
which on our budget is the difference between losing money and breaking even. And I apologize if you guys haven't had this longer. I mean, we've been discussing this since December. But that's the problem with the grant is we have a fast turnaround. The proposal tonight isn't 100% sign the contract, we're gonna do it. The proposed motion is to give approval for district administration to proceed with planning and preparation.
And who's gonna pull back out when it's not feasible? I mean, reality is,
What would
nobody
make,
wants to be the guy that pulls back out.
what would make it not feasible?
I don't know yet. I've
Well, we
heard
don't know all
heard
the answers.
information tonight that I've never heard before. There's numbers that I've never, I mean, what I have right here is what I've been given. And
So,
so,
from
So
my
Natalie,
perspective,
is from a perspective, I think one of them is the public-private, okay? Is that, a business that's supplemented by government dollars going against a private business. Is this gonna be a negative or a positive effect on the child care or daycare providers we have now? I worry about that. So we're gonna run somebody out of business, you know?
So I'm holding a childcare summit. That childcare summit was, the daycare providers came to me and said, hey, we have a problem. We're turning away people. I don't know if you guys watched the burst on Facebook, but we're birthing, how many kids a week would you say are we birthing?
oh, in our hospital.
In our hospital or.
Our hospitals maybe 1 or 2 a week, but we have a lot of people that live in this county that go to other
Yeah.
locations.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, those kids alone, those newborn babies, if their parents want to work, or it's a teacher. My daughter's having her second child, she's a teacher. She doesn't know if she's gonna be able to get childcare. Is she gonna have to quit teaching? That's PE, CTE classes that she teaches. She coaches basketball, she coaches track. Is the Concordia school gonna lose her because she can't find childcare? Again, those are the things that I'm looking at, even for our other businesses. The childcare providers came to me and said, we realize there's a problem. There's not enough childcare. We hand out a list of childcare providers from our office and we tell them to call to see if there's openings. They said, we're getting all these calls and we can't help them. We have to turn them away. So they asked me, can you do a summit to maybe teach new providers to come? Do you know how many new providers I have that are on my list to come and check out this childcare summit to learn how to start a business? New providers. I've asked a couple that have mentioned about it. Will you come? Because licensing will be there, the DCF payments will be there, food program will be there. And I can't force people to start a childcare business, but it's still needed. It's still a problem in our community.
I know we at the hospital, I can tell you 5 people who are having to quit or change how they're working because they don't have childcare. So that you can have stats, you can have numbers. I know 5 women that I work with that are stressing out, trying to figure out, they thought they had childcare, something fell through. They're having to go PRN, which means they only work occasionally, or they're moving to night shifts so that their husband can work with them during the day. It's a legit problem.
It sounds like a better fit for the hospital, honestly,
The
because
hospital already has
we're
one. and
fully
it's-
staffed. Like, we haven't had a problem getting teachers.
And I do see with how many's coming up for retirement, I mean, I can see that. You know, a lot of those are gonna be younger teachers. I mean, that's a legitimate reason for doing it. I mean, there's no question about that. Is that, and if you would you, full disclosure, I am on an economic development committee, okay, at Grove Lake County. I just want everybody to know that. So I've been in meetings and not just, it's not a board, I'm not on the board or anything, but been in discussions with all this kind of stuff. And so I just want everybody to know that. And I know she has worked tremendously hard and a lot of people, I don't disagree that we need childcare. It is obvious, okay? The thing is, for me tonight especially, is that I have no problem with going along with, we'll continue to look at this and move forward, and it's truly we'll look at it, but until we know the specifics of it, I think to totally commit to it. But in my opinion, there's nothing wrong with looking at this and going forward. There's not gonna be a cheaper way of doing it if we wanna do it. I just wanna make sure, just like the last meeting, when we weren't on the board and that vote was made, it was made to continue to progress towards the idea, you know what I'm saying,
Sign
Brett?
the letter of intent.
And that's kind of, Natalie, is that what you need from us? Is that good enough that?
Yeah, we just need to know that you guys are on board and want to partner with us to try and make this happen. I mean,
The key
the
word
whole
there
reason
is
why we
try.
got the grant is because of the partnerships that we had in place, the people from different community entities, and you're not left holding the bag on your own. You're in conjunction with some great people that want to see good things with this facility.
Yeah, and
It's
so
just a
from
lot
my,
of information. I just tell you, us being new, it's a hell of a lot of information for us to sit here tonight and say, we're all in right now.
It's a good point. Like
I see the positives of it, and I think we need to progress that way, in my opinion. I have no problems with that. But to sit here tonight and say we're all in, is just, I think we need to take till the March meeting and let us get some information. And for where it starts, the construction thing, I think that's the appropriate path to take.
I guess I do see that now. I mean, I've been part of these discussions between the Citizen Review Committee and then attending the strategic planning. So this isn't new, and I'm just hearing the things that are happening. So I understand why you're like, whoa, this is a lot all of a sudden, and that you don't trust the process because you are new to the process. I do want to let everyone know too, that I don't know what kind of input you guys have heard from your constituents. I have gotten 7, either emails or Facebook messages specifically saying we are supportive of this. I have gotten 0 as saying, don't do it. So if I was voting for my constituents and their representation, then what I have heard the people reach out to me is, yes, please vote yes.
I just wouldn't make a decision on 7 emails myself, but
No.
content data, it gives us a month to get out there and really, like, do people know? I don't think a lot of people know these are gonna have priority USD 379 spots. I could be wrong by that, but the information people, I think that needs to be assured, I do feel good about the fact, I don't know if it's still this way, Brad, but when we talked, the price would actually be a little bit higher than the other ones. Is that correct, that they would pay?
yeah, which is pretty typical, center prices are usually higher than.
Right, so in that regard, it's not like we're gonna lowball everybody and say, bring your kids here, that's not what we're gonna do. So that's, it's gonna cost them a little bit more off of our numbers to be a part of this than the other. Go, you got something?
I just wanted to, maybe, I know if you want more time, that's great, and I appreciate that. I would just ask that maybe by the March meeting, because I will have to adjust the plans. If the school's not gonna do it, because these plans that we did were based on some, what the school was gonna need to run a childcare facility, and if we're gonna go a different way, I would probably adjust it, I'd have to adjust it differently, because we talked about, I'll just be frank, what if the school board doesn't do it? We could possibly license each room, but it would require us to have a playground for each single room. That's cost prohibitive for us. We don't have enough money to put a playground out each door for each 4 rooms. And then let a private entity do it. Not only that, but it's just too cost prohibitive for us to do that. So we would probably reduce it down and only not have as much childcare. This amount of childcare spots makes an impact. Adding 1 or 2 providers, we need 125 spots according to childcare aware in our county. That's how many childcare spots that's lacking, that we don't know, people who just quit looking and either got out of the job or grandma's watching or whatever it is, because they don't have the opportunity, or they're just tired of looking and or maybe tired of their childcare provider closing all the time and not having it. And then they get deemed at work because they're not there.
And I do think the school district went through some stability, that it does bring that to it. You don't have somebody that just says in 60 days that I'm done. I can't do this anymore, and then everybody's out. So I agree with that. I think
Or go
there's
get a tattoo
some
and close
stability
the
to it.
daycare because they wanted to go get a
But-
tattoo.
I would just like,
So what's gonna
happen?
happen in 365 days when we say we can't do it?
I've heard it all.
Right,
And they have a 4-room facility that they can't support.
right.
So
That's why I'm to the point, I wish, not to,
They've got the grant, so it doesn't
is
matter.
the way to give us till March.
grant money runs out quicker than you think it does.
So, yeah.
Well, I would.
And
We're looking at our
no problem
after-school
telling.
programs that grant money's gonna run out on. We don't know if we're gonna be able to do it or not.
I have no problem in telling everybody, And my own feeling is, I would like to see it work. I just need a little bit more time with all this information, no more than we've had.
I would like
You
to
know?
hear if there's other specific questions that you guys
I got
need answered.
22 questions here, and that's my thing is if we have a month, we can put these all together. And
Could everybody send those to you and then
no doubt,
before the meeting, can we get the
I
answers?
would like
and
to
send
have them within 2 weeks, so we have 2 weeks to get the answers back and
Yeah, I mean, is it in relation to the building? Is it in relation just to
a
the?
little bit
childcare
of both,
portion?
you know, there's a little security, you know, the biggest thing that I've had, parents go to me about is the security. With so many groups using it, they want their own entrance, there is a security aspect there of protecting those kids. I noticed the door going into the community gym thing. What does that look like? You know what I'm saying? It is what it is today's world. We gotta take all the precautions in the world to protect those kids, those young kids. So I have a few on the security part of it. I noticed 2 gates out of the playground. You know what I'm saying? Can we get by with just 1 gate out? Because the one is kind of on the back side of that playground thing.
Well, and that was per KDHE. They had to
Okay.
approve and the fire
Okay.
marshal. We already have
Yeah.
fire marshal approval.
Right,
We
so what
submitted our
type of
plan for
lock,
that.
what type of thing is gonna be on
Yeah.
those, you know what I'm saying, to make
Yep.
sure that,
And
that's
KDHE
a
is very
secure
strict about security.
for kids.
I mean, and those kind of things.
and I will say this, I'll go this, we need a little bit of time too, because I don't know if there's such thing, and we don't have to do it at the same time. And it doesn't have to be equal, but we talk about retention and we do all those things, we are a 2 community school district. And we need to look into that for Wakefield, if it will help us with retention. I'm not saying it has to be done at the same time, that's not what I'm saying. But we need to keep putting in place and looking in that direction. I don't know, is there a facility we could rent down there and do something similar? I mean, I think the church closed, is that right?
Mhm.
Would they rent us?
I don't know.
You know, but that's something I think we need to,
I mean,
because we have the same market.
this thing's not a county, this thing's not a county facility. It's a Clay Center facility.
This one
Because
is,
people that way won't, you're not gonna put your 2-year-old on a bus and send them to this
right, but
daycare.
that's what I'm saying.
You're not gonna have time, you're not. Yeah, but
We need to look at
Brett,
something down
that's,
there.
you don't wanna put 2-year-olds and babies on buses and
That's what he
trains.
just
No, that's what he said, we're not
We will
gonna,
not.
that's what I'm saying, but we need to start looking down there, we got the summary, and what is some options down there, is that, and being on the economic development thing, I will say this, is that, you know, with the Wakefield thing, and this is not a time and place to debate Grove Clay County and all that, you know what I'm saying, there, is that we've worked with Wakefield on some projects, could we do better? I think the fire truck, is that right?
Well, we looked over some grant stuff and then they got 15,000 for different, their library got some money, the grocery
So-
store. I mean, we've been, and then I just wanted to let you know, the childcare committee
Right.
is looking into places to do another childcare. And I told them I would help them if they could find a place, because I don't know Wakefield.
Right.
I don't live there. I'm not from the campus. I haven't been there. Those people that they've got, I think 10 community members that are serving on this childcare committee that is, was kind of asked, the city council kind of started it in a way, kind of, sort of. And so we've had our first official meeting. They're meeting again tomorrow. I'll be down there. I put the survey together. That's gonna go out just to Wakefield residents because we want to assess what Wakefield needs. We want to make sure that it, you know, is it that we need a full 2-room school, 2-room childcare? Do we only need 1? What do we need? Because they don't even know what they need there in that community. So we need to assess those needs. And then I told them I would figure out other ways, and they're gonna look for facilities. And then they even have 1 person identified possibly that could run a childcare for them. So again, but they don't have the means to do a facility or other things like that.
That's options we need to look at too and consider. It doesn't be on the same timeline though, because I mean, one thing is written is that this is not about, I mean, I'm not going to pit 2 communities against you. They're both important to this county. And the kids in all those schools are damn important to everybody too. So that is a route that we need to make sure that we put consideration into also and look at those options. Yeah.
President, you know, so far, at least the constituents has contacted me. And, you know, they've all had valid reasons on that part. And probably going forward on this. 21, of course, had major concerns before making a commitment. 7 were in favor of making a commitment right away. Now, in going forward with that, then one of the major concerns, and that's something that we definitely need to get answered prior to making a decision, is that, will this open us up to a potential lawsuit for negligence for being an operator of the facility? And if it does, then what are the legal guidelines that this district will have to follow, and the insurance that we'll have to carry for being in charge of that facility? Now, that right there in this day and age, that is valid on that part. So what I'm saying is that, and that goes back to my comment, is that we need to do our due diligence. Think this through completely before coming back and say, man, I wish I would have known that. Or, oh yeah, we forgot to tell the community this. Or we forgot to tell the patron taxpayers that we're gonna have a budget deficit because we didn't think this thing through all the way. That's what I'm saying right now, at least from the ones I've heard so far on it.
Again, I like what I'm hearing overall, but I don't have enough information for enough time. Natalie, I would like to wait till March, and we dead set make a decision in March. I mean, is that feasible for you all? Where it goes, no more, kicking the can, but give us 30 days to finish this off and make that decision. And it's not, I don't want to put anything in intent or whatever, is it gives time to work some things out and put some things down, and hey, let's swallow the drop when we have the information how long we have. But I appreciate, again, all your work. I know what you've done, the information. I mean, even Brett, with the numbers we put together, I just think we need one more month to finalize some of this other stuff and go with that.
Well, let's make that official. I move that we table this item until the March meeting. So we would need a second.
I second. First and second, any other discussion? All those in favor? Carries 7-0. I think that's the best decision for now. I do like the direction we're going with it.
So I just asked if, you know, depending on, I mean, you said 20, you have 20 and you have, like, I'm gonna need those fairly soon if you want me to
The
turn them
questions,
around.
the questions by
And-
Friday.
Oh, yeah. I'll have
Do
mine
that
to you
this
Wednesday if
Friday?
you want. So, but by the end of the week, so there is enough time, and then we'll get the answers. We got a little time to think about, you know what I'm saying? So,
Yeah, I give some for legal counsel to walk in and review
Well, I don't think,
any type of legal question.
in some of your questions, Dave, I don't think that he's gonna have those by the end of the month, because they're not that far in the process yet. I think what they're asking for now is to move forward and get those answers and work out some of those where who's gonna sign on the dotted line, who's gonna be responsible for what, and everything. Nobody's locked into anything yet. Everybody's they just need to know who the players in the games are and then try to figure those things out. So I don't know that he's, in a month.
but I think in a month we'll have a good idea. Is Head Start really, is that a likelihood of things? You know what I'm saying with that? We can have those discussions, you know what I'm saying, the 2 rooms, all that type of stuff. I think we will have more detail, and we can go over what we have. And I want to share this and bounce this off some other people. I just haven't had enough time to do that, having this 4 or 5 days since the board turned over. And I think that is I think that's a reasonable request.
Yeah.
Like I say, I do like a lot of it that I hear, but I have things that I think needs to,
Right, I'm not arguing that point. I'm just saying that some of those things,
not everything's gonna be
it might
worked
be
out.
6 months before we have an answer
Right.
to, some of those things.
Right. Not everything has to be
We won't
worked
have
out,
all
but
of
I just,
that.
we'll have a lot better understanding in 30 days to give it our
Sure.
blessing, but, I'm not afraid to say that I do the numbers and all that, since we don't have to own the building, the projected cost right now, it definitely makes it feasible. You know, there's no question. Now it's thinking it over and bounce off ideas and see where we go from there. Huh? Pretty good. Anything else? Mhm. I do appreciate the discussion and, I look forward to March and moving on with this. Calendar.
Hey, I shared with you guys 2 calendars last year. The only difference was October. And so we, met and administratively and looked at the end of first quarter and thought we needed to balance quarter 1 and quarter 2 a little better. So that is the calendar, that is out there. And I'll take any questions.
My only question being new, yeah, was that first week, August 12th through the 15th? How does that work?
Sure.
Just the quick little detail, not in great detail.
So the salmon color is a PD, that gray, the 13th is a work day. So our teachers, just from working with the kids, they don't like to start on a Monday. They don't want to start on a Thursday or Friday. They like to start on middle of the week. Part of that is because 2 of our buildings only bring in 6th grade and freshmen, just because of the transition. And they try to get kids there for just one day on a Friday wouldn't happen. So they want to start on that Wednesday. And we do a shorter day just to kind of get the kids rolling in, not too much, and then can go start that full day on Thursday.
Yeah, I don't have any problems. I would just, we go on the calendar, it's a lot easier on parents the less half days that there are. And I understand
Yeah.
that's the biggest thing that I hear from people is the half days make it tough on a lot more parents, 2 families work and so, but I no problem with the calendar. So,
I do have a question about it. In the past, when my kids were in school years ago, we both got to vote as parents. Do parents get to vote anymore? Which option?
In the past, it was site councils who voted, we didn't send it ever out to all the
Okay.
parents. It was when you were on site
Okay,
council.
site council. Okay, thank you for clarifying.
And I'll be honest, the calendars, there's not as much wiggle room as people believe, to be quite honest, in order to meet negotiated agreement, state statutes, board policy. And so that's why I have attached the calendar building. It's really, more the staff kind of looking at it. We have not had the site councils, we sure can. I think at this point, and I could do that next year in the process, for sure. I think we have families wanting to know. They always want to know because especially if they have kids that are juniors and next year going to be seniors, they want to know when graduation potentially is going to be. Especially for travel and those kind of things. It's crazy, but they call this time of year wanting to know for next year's. So, but I can sure include the site councils, for the feedback piece.
I was just curious if they had any input, if parents did, but. Okay.
well, I move to approve the 2024-25 calendars presented pending negotiations and professional development needs as it relates to the district's improvement process.
Second.
A second, any other discussion? All those in favor? Motion carries 7. Then, the last one on here is the administrative evaluation process. And yeah, there's gonna be a few things on here that being new, we just don't know how it works and it needs to be discussed. And so that's all this was. I asked Brett to put this on here, just, we're getting asked now to approve new contracts and stuff like that, just to give us an idea of how that process is done.
Yeah. So our building principals are in charge of evaluating the staff within their buildings. I evaluate and goal set with all of our district administrators. And with Mrs. Breen, our TELEC director, the advisory board does her evaluation together. Some things that the evaluation tool, we tweak it a little bit each year or seem to, but it's based on a goal setting approach. Each principal's or administrators has to set 3 goals. 1 goal must be tied to student achievement. And then we meet, review those goals. The administrator collects artifacts and evidence of progress towards each of those goals that we discuss and analyze. We also have a technical aspect to the evaluation that gets some more of the technical pieces that we ask for, simple little things like we have an agreement, district-wide agreement on how many classroom walkthroughs they're gonna do, our expectations by quarter and semester, some things like that. And then, about every year and a half to 2 years, we do the parent climate survey. This year's, we're up for the parent climate survey again. I included a copy of what that looks like in your board packet, and so those will go out this spring. We used to do our own staff climate survey too, that specifically asked questions about the building administrator, but when EPIC came, that's the ESU survey that certifies our certified teachers. Instead of asking our teachers or staff to do 2 surveys asking basically the same things, we shifted to the EPIC. The EPIC was done. We had 100% of our certified staff participate. We have the certified results now and are waiting on the classified. So those survey, the data collected from that survey is used in the evaluation process. And sometimes it's used with an individual principal to set a goal. If there's a big trend in what the staff and public saying about that building or their perspectives, then we might set a goal towards that area. Similar to what I will do with my own evaluation with you when we talk about it, similar to what we will do, with the EPIC data as a district. And so that parent survey will go out here in the next couple of months. And then the biggest piece is we're in a transition year on everyone's evaluation, including mine. I was the first to transfer over because the board set new goals, set a new strategic plan. And so the board in December realigned my evaluation directly to the board goals and the strategic plan. And so, to make the system work across, each building is in the process of redoing their building improvement goals. And so the goal is to have those done by this spring. And then each principal is being asked to revamp their evaluation to align to their building improvement plans, and the building improvement plans align to the district plans. And so that's a very quick down and dirty of the evaluation process for our administrators.
Part of the reason I brought it up is, I've been through several evaluations. I still think the best evaluations, and just a discussion, is the ones when the people you work with every day do the evaluations. Being a coach it's funny, the ones that didn't play didn't have a lot of good things to say. The ones that played a lot did, but you separate all that. I just want to, that would be my thing, is to make sure that the people that in the buildings, it sounds like we have that, they have the opportunity to evaluate who they work for. And so, I think that's, it's not always easy, but you do learn some good stuff that makes you better from those types of things. And that's why, I like the fact that when I hear the school district are very much data dependent on things. We look at a lot of data. And to me, that's an important piece of data. The people that actually work for that person in the building truly have an opportunity to evaluate them. And for, superintendent, everybody in the district has their opportunity, is the buildings and, all of them. So I appreciate that. Brett. And again, more of that's just for being new and understanding how things are done. And it takes a little bit of time and finding more, but the more we get used to work together and figuring out things, there'll be less of those. So, okay. Anyone else have any questions? I don't appreciate it. All right. So that does, for that next meeting, the facilities tour, I think we set the date. Is that correct? We did that?
March 2018.
Yeah.
And we'll have something for you after you tour to eat before then, as far as back here.
Eventually, I'm gonna get used to that. I'm gonna make it expected, especially those pizzas.
I thought we did.
That was
I seen the times on that tour, and I thought we used to go 8 o'clock, and so that we were in all the buildings when the kids were there.
You have before.
Yeah.
No, we can see that offer at 8 o'clock, so we got someone.
Well, yeah, we said that too, but so this time we're not doing that.
I don't know, I didn't make the schedule.
Well, the last time there was a building outside hours too. There always has been, since I've been doing it. we hit at least one building when there's not kids there.
They're in Garfield with no kids.
I'm happy to do it.
No, I seen we weren't starting,
Either way.
I seen we weren't starting until 11, which to me, if we don't start at 8, so we, you know,
We're gonna run the whole day.
we ought, huh?
We're gonna run our whole day anyway, so.
Well, yeah, cause you're not, I mean, if we're gonna end up in Wakefield at 4 o'clock and then gotta be back up here for a meeting at 6. We ought to start at Wakefield and work our way this way, but.
And that's what we did last time,
We
but I
did
was
do that.
trying to rotate
Yeah,
it so
I
you
can
guys
understand
can
that,
see
which is
different
fine, which
times
is
of the
fine.
day at different buildings.
And you'll still see kids at 4 at Wakefield, 30
Yeah,
plus.
after school program,
So.
So,
which is fine.
whatever, everybody good with the way it is for now? Yeah. You know what I'm saying?
It's a Monday after spring break, so be prepared.
Okay. So that's, on the next meeting, and then, the Tiger House.
Yeah, that'd be next,
Right.
next
Right.
meeting, yeah.
Does anybody else have anything they want to discuss at the next meeting? Here, real quick. Go ahead.
Yeah, would please, anyway, and I'd like to discuss on, district advertising policy, if we could, please. Could have to put that on the agenda, on that part. And, anyway, probably another thing that's been presented to me anyway, was, on how, on some of our projects, for instance, on how, we submit or how we present bids, for instance, on some of our projects on that. So if we're allowed to, open up, to, local businesses in our district, to, all, everybody gets a bid, for instance, et cetera, et cetera. So that's something there too. I just feel that.
Well, that could kind of
They
be-
felt that presented to me that they need, that we need.
That could kind of be like what we did with evaluations, if you don't mind doing that the next meeting, just kind of explain the bid process and a few of those things. Sound okay? I mean, so just, okay,
Yeah, thank you.
all right. Yeah. And then, the future items, you already talked about that, there's, and Brett is, there's a little bit more to that, details with, let's get the right information, take your time, and it's where, so people that deal with that every day feel comfortable, and we'll see where that goes.
And with exec, I don't need, I included some data in your folders, but until we know what's gonna happen with the legislator, until we know who our negotiators are, I don't know that, I don't have anything specifically for you.
Well, that's for doing exactly. Very good. And, there's nothing else. I move we adjourn the meeting.
At least
Sorry. Just a little bit.
That's what I asked.
There you
That's what
go.
I wanted.
I apologize. I thought you asked if we needed exec.
No, no.
I'll make that motion. I move to approve the personnel report, including supplemental updates as presented.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Any other discussion? Okay. All those in favor? Motion carries 7-0. Now we can.
No,
Adjourn.
We got another personnel.
Well, that's the important ones.
I move to
How
approve
come-
the contract
Oh,
renewal.
hang on. Well, go ahead, make your motion.
Okay. I move to approve the contract renewal for the directors as presented.
Second.
Okay,
How
discussion.
come we don't have all of our directors on there?
Just because that's how it already was.
That's how our annual agenda has always done it. I don't know the reason why it was done that way before I was here, but
So, okay, I say from now on, you make a change, you put them all on there at this time.
Yeah,
The rest are on for the next one.
Okay, but I'm saying, but if we're gonna do them, let's do all our directors.
I think that makes sense.
kind of one of those things, it's always been done that way, so that's how I did
Yeah, I
it.
understand, but I just like, we got more than two directors.
What was the reason?
I don't
Give them
know.
some time,
I don't know.
evaluations or
I mean,
something?
one of these
Sit
that we're
down-
doing,
sit down
I
and
mean,
talk?
it can't be longevity, I mean, it can't be new because
No.
one's been here forever, so.
They did district level admin
Just-
and then
I'm trying to remember what.
Cause we'll have a bus barn director, maintenance director,
there's a list. We do all of our nurses, all of our
Yeah.
classified certified. We do all them and
yeah, but I'm saying just directors.
Just director.
you know, just like, Ben Last, I mean, he's a director, you
We
know.
put all the salary classified together. We're the two, salary certified
Okay.
directors. The
The
rest
others are
are
salary
classified.
Okay, I'm with you, which we can separate them out, but I just, okay, I'm good.
Right. All those in favor? Motion carries.
And those who adjourn the meeting.
Second.
Got a second? All those in favor? Means adjourned. Appreciate your time.